Mr. Best, could you lead us in the pledge, please?
Thank you. I
pledge
pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Yes, I think the reminder on my agenda is mostly for me because I've had troubles with my phone going off. So we have approval of the agenda, which includes the minutes from May 28th. What's the wishes of the council?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Any adjustments, amendments? Okay, Madam Clerk, you want to call the roll for the agenda?
Deputy Mayor Anzalati,
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper,
Yes.
Councilmember Best,
Yes.
Councilmember Tudor,
Yes.
Mayor Carrington.
Yes.
Councilmember Moline,
Yes.
Councilmember Alcantara.
Yes.
Okay, unanimous.
All right. Next, we have communications and appearances. Andre Jackson, would you like to come forward and do a presentation about Juneteenth? No, yeah. Well, I didn't recognize any elected officials or board commission, not that I will necessarily remember everyone on every board, but. We're having a presentation about Juneteenth. That's part of the presentation on Juneteenth, yeah. Did you want to just start with the video, or, okay, okay.
Mayor, council member, city manager, city attorney, beloved community.
Oh, thank you, Josh. You're good.
As a kid, my parents taught me love. They taught me to follow God's word. They taught me principles of Dr. King. I'm a product of segregation and desegregation. I walked to school during the time of desegregation, about 1.7 miles to school. There were kids at this white school that lived less than a block that were bused, but we had to walk. And the funny thing is, they would even wave at us as we were walking to school. But I didn't think anything about it. We just, as kids grew up, we just lived it, and we just enjoyed life. We just enjoyed school. We didn't even think about protesting or rioting. So from that point, the siblings and I from the neighborhood, we often wondered why we never had buses, especially walking almost 2 miles. Then as a senior in high school, we had separate homecoming courts. We had a white court and a black court. This is back in 1979. So a lot of those things that were going on then should have and could have angered me. But I chose not to because of my parents' teaching and the love for a well-defined and redefined community. So recently, I spoke with Mike at Big Cabbage Radio. He asked the question, why did I join the Matthew Martin Luther King Jr. Foundation? I don't know if you remember back in the early 2000s, VPA, the Valley Performing Arts, put on a very controversial adapted play of To Kill a Mockingbird. In that play, I played Tom Robinson. And nothing in that play was left out the book. I mean, anything that was in the book was in the play. In other words, it was raw materials of the time. And if you ever read To Kill a Mockingbird, you know exactly what I'm talking about. To deal with that as an African male, black male in this country, to have somebody to belittle you on stage, it brought back a lot of memories that started to anger me. But I realized at that point in time, it needed to be done so people could understand what was really going on during that time it was still going on during the time of the play. We ran about 6 weeks at the VAP. I read that book in the 8th grade, and I did not have any ear feelings of how Tom Robinson was treated, or individuals that was treated in my neighborhood or outside my neighborhood that looked like me. The sad part that I recognized and that I noticed while playing Tom Robinson was that I endured unscripted racism, which means that the script had racist comments in it, but there were cast members that had it during the production and during the rehearsals times. At one point in time, I wanted to leave, but I said no. The city and the community of the Valley needed to see this production at its rawest form. That was one of the reasons why I decided to join, because there was lessons that need to be taught and still need to be learned. Senator Lisa McGuire, back in 2001, championed a bill, SB 100, to acknowledge Juneteenth as a commemorative on the 3rd Saturday of June. Now, fast forward to Senator L.V. Gray, Senate Bill 22. It passed by the Senate on May 3rd, 2023, 16-4. The House, May 15th, 2024. May 3rd, 2023, 16-4. May 15th, 2024, by the House, 37-3. We had a Facebook post that somebody decided to contact us and write a post on our Facebook page, and they said, the House voted higher number than the Senate. Why didn't the Senate and the House have the same number of members? Needless to say, we did not respond to it because it was just really a waste of time. They didn't understand the dynamics of how Juno worked. Our celebration this year is very special because of the passing of Senate Bill 22. Wednesday, June the 19th, 12-7, at downtown Palmer Pavilion is a set time. The program is to start at 3 p.m., but there will be live music starting about 12. Please show the clip. And what you're about to see is what you can certainly expect.
Held its Juneteenth picnic at the Palmer Pavilion this afternoon. Photojournalist Kim Danke was there to hear about the importance of the holiday.
You are my sunshine. You can light up the darkest night.
Today we're having a Juneteenth celebration. This year will be the first time in person that we're having out in the Valley. When slavery ended, there was a situation where it had not ended in Galveston, Texas. And because of that, the government sent basically 2,000 troops to read a General Order Number 3, as well as the Emancipation Proclamation that would free slaves. The reason for the horse riders is that we want to recreate how in Galveston, Texas, the news of the Emancipation Proclamation was delivered. Horseback, and it was delivered in I believe in a tube with ribbons around it, red and blue ribbons. And so we want to kind of create that environment.
The people of Texas are informed that in accordance with proclamation from the Executive of the United States, all slaves are free. Thank you, brother.
Celebration of Juneteenth reminds each of us of the precious promises of freedom, equality, and opportunity, which are at the core of the American dream.
Well, celebrated because it's a part of history that really should not be forgotten. We recognize that it happened, so we want to bring the community together and say, look, these things are happening. Let's also celebrate the accomplishments that Black America has done. We're not here to chastise or belittle any race, and so everybody's welcome because it's a national holiday for all people in this country. With that, one last thing I want to do is that typically we do not ask for grants to support our event. We try to, whatever money we do raise, we do apply it to the different events that we throw out through the valley. But I do want to ask for a verbal grant to you guys today, and more specifically to the city manager. I ask you that you to direct Public Works to provide the barriers necessary to set for our permitted road closure, which would be the same road closure as Friday Fling. We in turn will take those barriers and remove them and put them aside to be picked up at a later time. I spoke with Works almost 2 weeks ago. I have not heard from them as far as the closures. They wanted, as far as the barriers, they actually wanted us to come and pick them up. And I think that's just a little bit more unnecessary footing for us to do that. So if you can at least grant us that. We don't ask for any money from the city at this point in time, but just simply if you can help us with those barriers, that'll be a real good blessing for us. And I thank you for this time.
And I think you've got a proclamation as well.
Thank you, sir.
So a proclamation recognizing Juneteenth. Whereas the City Council of Palmer, Alaska understands the importance of acknowledging and celebrating the historical events that have shaped our nation and our community. And whereas Juneteenth, also known as Freedom Day, is an annual celebration held on June 19th, marking the emancipation of enslaved African Americans in the United States. And whereas on June 19th, 1865, Union Army General Gordon Granger arrived in Galveston, Texas to announce and enforce the end of slavery in accordance with President Abraham Lincoln's Emancipation Proclamation issued on January 1st, 1863. And whereas Juneteenth serves as a reminder of the ongoing struggle for the equity and justice for all and as a celebration of the progress made in the pursuit of these essential ideals. And whereas the City of Palmer is dedicated to fostering an inclusive and diverse community and which supports the recognition of historical events and contributions of various cultural and ethnic groups in our nation. And whereas it is important for the citizens of Palmer, Alaska to understand the historical significance of Juneteenth and to participate in events and activities that promote unity, understanding, and the advancement of civil rights. Now therefore be it resolved that the City Council of Palmer, Alaska hereby recognize June 19th as Juneteenth and encourage all residents to join in celebrating the day and its significance in our nation's history by attending local events, learning about the contribution of African Americans in our society, and participating in meaningful discussions about race, equality, and justice in our community. And witness thereof, June 11th, 2024. All right. Next is reports. City manager's report.
Yes, good evening. First, I need to report to you of an emergency purchase. We had an issue with broken X mower at the golf course. We needed to keep the grass cut for service, and so we had an expenditure. As manager, I'm permitted to spend $15,000. The purchase we had to acquire was $17,000. So you will have an information memorandum following at a future meeting, but first chance that purchase happened, I wanted to inform you. Second thing we have is we just got the documents for our insurance, property and liability insurance renewal. We're going through those right now. That will be on a future meeting. We're looking overall about a 15% increase. I think last year, if you remember, we had a 29% increase. A lot of that to do with the damages caused by the windstorm, the the previous year. Broken water line over at our fire training center, one of our facilities over there, and then the water tank over at the college. Also, too, we coming forward is requested by City Council. We did an RFP for assistant grant writers. We received 7 applications. We've gone through those. We are going to be recommending two City Council as our grant writers, that when these issues come up and approved by City Council to move forward to spend money on, we can go to one or those two depending on the type of grant and how best their experience fits in what we're trying to go after. Also, 2 job reclassifications will be coming forward. We have directive by City Council to move on those. We just have 2 community development and public works left to come to you. That will be coming to you shortly. In conclusion of that, at the last meeting, you requested a presentation from Public Works regarding summer activities, snow plowing, and other issues. That will be coming in railroad tracks also. That will be forthcoming at a future meeting shortly. We're geared up for that. Also, Thursday, June 13th, we are hosting the Mat-Su Miners game at 6 p.m. We have J&J, Josh and John, who are going to be manning a table to give out some stuff. We've got 2 grill sergeants there, Mr. Best and Mr. Cooper. We'll be cooking up the miner dogs and the miner burgers and bringing extra money. Prices went up this year. But with these guys on it, I'm sure the burgers will be worth it. Also, too, Carlina had a huge assist. She reneged on singing the national anthem, but she found a almost as good replacement who she's saying is much better. So thank you very much for that. Excited to do that. I think I really appreciate City Council being involved in these events, and of course, being a baseball fan, this is close to my heart. So thank you very much. Oh, very important. We have a lady named Elizabeth Doris, who is going to be starting July 1st as our HR manager. So Kimberly Green is going to be sticking around to assist her getting kind of stabilized in position. So that is accomplished. And the last thing I have is I want to sincerely thank City Council for giving me the opportunity to serve with you, the City of Palmer. I've enjoyed my 4 years here. This has been the most fun job, not the best, but the most fun job I've ever had. I think we've worked well together. We got awful lot accomplished. I think we're shooting upwards for the next city manager. So thank you very much for that. It's been an honor and pleasure to serve this great city. And one thing I want to leave you with is those who were here for the mask mandate debate. We had numerous people come through, and I think this says a lot about our city and a love for our city. Practically every person came, first told City Council how much they love Palmer, and then they let us have it right between the eyes. There's a lot of love for this town. I've been in 4 other small communities as manager, and small towns try to create what City of Palmer has, and they never can get to us. And it's not created by the city doing it. It's just a lot of individuals working together and banding together, and that's, Palmer's a magical place, and just a special place that we know. But compared to others, I don't think there's anything like Palmer, especially here in Alaska. Thank you.
Is there any questions for our manager? Councilman Best.
Thank you for the report. Do we know who's going to be throwing out the first pitch?
Yes, it is going to be David Sutton. David Sutton takes care of our community, makes it nice and clean. He's worked many years girls softball, and I think he's pretty excited about it when the mayor let me ask him to do that.
Very good. As a follow-up on that, may I ask, have you ever thrown out the first pitch?
Let's say I bounced one in front of home plate once when I worked for the borough.
Well, I know of your love of baseball, and that was a question that I just wanted to ask if you had ever gotten to throw out the first pitch. And so,
Yes, I have. And last year, my 5-year-old grandson got to throw out the first pitch. And so,
nice.
and the next game, he thought he got to do it again.
Well, thank you for your service to our community, sir.
Any other questions of the manager? All right, next is the mayor's report. I think I've got a written report. One of the things I proposed later on in AMs, as I was recommending we make Finance Director Gina Davis our interim director. And I don't know if there's any questions from council on that. And also was going to make sure people knew tomorrow from 5 to 7 at the depot, we're having refreshments and conversations about Mr. Moosey. So come on down for, I don't know if we're gonna roast him, but we'll talk about him at least.
I'll wear a flame retardant suit.
We're a flame retardant suit. And then also coming up, June 20th, we have a joint meeting with P&Z, which I think is Thursday next week. There should be an agenda coming out with that soon. And then also we were looking at maybe having an early meeting before the 25th at like 5:10, shall we say. We've gotten the city manager applications, it's closed, and so we should have those coming to us, I think, this week. And we could have beginnings of discussions then and figure out where to go from there, if that works for everybody. We'll kind of schedule that. Any questions for me for my report? Okay. Next is city clerk. There's a written report.
Right.
So any questions for the clerk then? No. All right, and city attorney's report. We've had some issues with some of the mics, so.
I don't have much to say, so I'll be quick. So this week I represented city officials and the city council. All of you had received a subpoena and had individually asked me about that. So I wanted to let you know I represented us in court, honoring the subpoena process, which the court did appreciate, and that matter is now resolved. So there's no follow-up needed for that. Then in terms of regarding the nonprofit audit, I've been going department through department on that. And the city engages with several dozen various nonprofits at several different levels. So kind of putting those together in different piles and topics. I will have a verbal report for you at the next meeting. And then in order to honor our public notice requirements as I'm going through it, I'll have a written report submitted for the first meeting in July. And that's everything for me.
Okay. Any questions of our attorney? Okay. Next is audience participation. And council meeting rules protect your right to testify and be heard even if others in the room disagree with you. Council meeting rules also ensure that those attending can express their views if they do not interfere with the rights of others to see and hear the proceedings. At all times, order and decorum will be maintained in keeping with the civility and dignity of the legislative process. Please sign in. I guess there's a sign up there. Or Josh is going to grab it for us. And we will open audience participation. And starting with Jackie, go for it.
Good evening, Mayor and City Council. My name is Jackie Goforth. You know, I probably should wear a camera so I can record some of the comments that come my way, and I'll speak about that later. What I handed the clerk right now is the Matsu Borough's new policy on libraries. Their new collection policy and how you challenge them. It is 5 pages long. The reason why is they have removed everything from the American Library Association out of it. It was signed May 5th, and I believe the reason why is the American Library Association documents were never official documents. Now I want you to know, when you speak with someone who has been part of the American Library Association, it's like talking to an NPC that's a non-player character. They don't seem to have any moral standards whatsoever. In fact, in 2003, there was a United States Supreme Court case called United States versus the American Library Association, 539 U.S. 194. And the reason why is because the American Library Association wanted the internet open to absolutely anyone to get on any internet site at any time, and that includes pornography for children. And the United States was going to take away their funding if they did that, so there was a big court case. And this is one of the things that came out of it. A public library does not acquire internet terminals in order to create a public forum for web publishers to express themselves, any more than it collects books in order to provide a public forum for the authors of books to speak. It provides internet access, not to encourage a diversity of views from private speakers, but for the same reason it offers other library resources to facilitate research, learning, and recreational pursuits by furnishing materials of requisite and appropriate quality. Now, in Decision 204, the opinion of Justice Rehnquist, to fulfill their traditional missions, public libraries must have broad discretion to decide what material to provide their patrons. Although they seek to provide a wide array of information, their goal has never been to provide universal coverage. Instead, public libraries seek to provide materials that would be of the greatest direct benefit or interest to the community. To this end, libraries collect only those materials deemed to have requisite and appropriate quality. The librarian's responsibility is to separate the gold from the garbage, not to preserve everything. Now, I spoke last night at the Matsu Health Foundation, and when I got finished, I was approached by a lady who had issues with my speech. And when I told her, it is a parental right on what your children learn. It's a parent's responsibility and right on what their children learn. It's not anybody else's. And she said, and I quote, "Not if they send them to school, it isn't." Do you understand how profound that statement is? Now, I have challenged the policy, and I have challenged books through the policy that Palmer has. And it is a closed hearing, by the way. No one's involved to hear it. And once you have challenged the librarians, who of course have always said, and I can quote all of their letters, exactly identical practically, that the book's fine. The book's absolutely fine, there's no problem. The information should be available to everyone. I want you to know identical is now in there for 3 years, and in a minute you're going to hear what's in it. Thank you.
Next is Linda.
My name is Linda Spohn, and I'm going to read from the book Identical, page 210. Ty kisses me, Alfang, pure vampire. Hey, take it easy. But somehow my body responds to the pain, and Ty responds to that, clamping one hand around both my wrists, pulling them over my head, and pinning me helpless. It is then I notice a nylon cord, one end tied tight to the headboard. Ty's voice is almost a snarl. This is one of my favorite games. He wraps the rope around my wrist, knots it tightly, escape-proof. I shake my head, don't. But he does. Should I scream? Would anyone hear? Would anyone care? The obvious answer softens my plea. Please? Haven't you played this game before? I guess I'll have to teach you the rules. The proper response would be, please, sir, say it. My heart yells, no fucking way! But my brain, the part that understands my daddy, makes me.
Excuse me.
Please, sir. He flips me onto my belly, yanks my legs apart. I don't have to see the restraints to know they're there.
Excuse me.
The ankle knots do not surprise me. I am helpless, exposed, and strangely, somehow I feel at home this way.
Ma'am.
Say it demands.
Linda.
I understand.
Listen.
This is what you have in the library, okayed for children. They can hear it, but you can't?
Well,
Let me finish this.
reading in a public meeting that is being broadcast on the internet.
I
think-
understand that perfectly. And you know what? I'm not just reading it for you. The public needs to know what is there. The taxpayers need to know what they're paying for in these public libraries. And they need to know what you're going to spend several $1 million on a brand new big library and what you're going to put on the shelves. Let me finish.
Madam Attorney?
Leather snaps against my skin and I remain still as stagnant water. Afraid I might not play by his rules. This is a new game, and the sick thing is, I see quickly that I like it. Might ask to play it again. The pain is fuzzy at the edges, blurring towards pleasure. Maybe it's the hash, the gentle arms of opium. And now, new leather, human, tie, falls softly over the heated welts. A soothing balm of sweat-beaded skin. But then, heightened pain forced inside me, stuffed inside me, seared, branded, likely marked. A moan escapes me, and tie surges. It's so bad I can't continue. And that's a very small portion of what's in this book. We are begging you for the children's sake, just absolutely begging you. Do something. These librarians and library directors and friends of the Palmer, Wasilla, whatever libraries, they're as corrupt Marxists and communists as you can get. And you are doing absolutely nothing.
Madam Attorney?
Yes, I would like to clarify that the audience that is listening, that I would like to put out a trigger warning in the point that these materials and excerpts that are being read were designed in a book and for 14 and above, and that our audience in the state of Alaska has sexual assault rates 4 times the normal. So just wanted to make sure anyone who's listening to it, there will be excerpts that could be potentially read, and there should be a trigger warning, and they should be aware of that.
All right. Mark? Please start with your name.
Mark Spone, and it's just hard to believe you sit here as a group. Yeah, we don't care. We're not doing anything about it. This is taxpayer money you're providing to get this to kids. And you're good with it, but don't let the public hear that we're doing it. We don't want anybody to know about it, but you're allowing it. What, you can't? You don't care? You have no care in your hearts for kids? But we don't want the public to hear it. So, here we go. This is the same book that you're allowing, identical, page 447. The bad thing about puking regularly is how you come to rely on it. Hungover, go puke. Feel a bit fat, go puke. Confused, go puke. Frightened, go puke. Entire world falling apart, hurry up and go puke. All of the above. Puke, 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 puke. And puke some more. Totally puked out, esophagus acid etched. I'm ready to face the day, not. I am your girl. I am not your girlfriend. I am not your whore. I am not my effing mother. But he is on top of me and my shout is silenced. He is inside of me and my scream stays there too. He is finished. And don't cry out, but I do cry a bucket of silent tears. He slithers away and at last I quietly sob. No, 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 no. And you people, book after book, you won't let anybody challenge them. If you challenge, oh, this is good, they get challenged. Oh, this is good reading material. This is taxpayer-funded library, taxpayers, employees, and you're representing this city. You have the control over it. We don't care. We'll just keep polluting the kids. What are you gonna do when these kids grow up being brainwashed in this society for this long?
Prudence, I think, is listed next.
Good evening.
Please start with your name.
I'm Prudence McKinney, and I am the president of the Friends of the Palmer Public Library, Inc. And I just came to bring you a report on our summer reading program. The summer reading program is a joint effort. Essentially, the Friends of the Palmer Public Library raises the money, and then the program coordinator, Saina Bell, who is started in January of this year, so she's been in the job about 6 months. She's done a phenomenal job this year. She went all out on our summer reading program. It started last week. It's planned for roughly 500 people so far. I think we're about halfway through giving away kits to everybody. Summer reading is for all ages, so come on down to the library. You can join too. Bring your family. You get a reading log. The idea is you read for 20 minutes a day or so, which is a recommended time to combat what researchers have come to call the summer slide, which is sort of that backtracking for students who, when they're off school for those 3 months or whatever, they might lose some of the gains that they'd made during the previous academic year. There's tons of research to support that. Reading regularly during the summer, again, 20 minutes a day or more, helps prevent that, and in fact gives kids a good head start on the next year. So it helps them keep up their vocabulary, expand their vocabulary, all that good stuff. So I just wanted to hit some of the highlights for you. Again, Saina really did a fantastic job. So if you join our program, you get a reading log, you get a fabulous series of collectible pins. They're adorable. They're all Alaska creatures, so you can come in every week and get a new pin if you've read. And then we have a new program every week. So last week was, in the rain, unfortunately, bicycle maintenance in the old parking lot. And then this week, they just had today the local pollinators presentation, which I think Susan's going to tell you a little bit about. This week on Saturday is story time at the Babb Arboretum, so we'll have tree-focused activities for everybody. On the 20th of June, there's a fun run, and the 27th of June is an activity at the Valley Recycling Center. I won't read you the rest, but there is an activity also for every week in July, and then the whole affair wraps up on July 30th with a big party. Amazing prizes this year. And again, it's for all ages, so come on down if you're interested, tell your friends, come on by, pick up a reading log, get in on those collectible pins, you don't want to miss them. And then you get entered in the prize drawings once a week if you come in and read, and there's, again, really good prizes. Railroad tickets, we have all kinds of stuff. There's a pool package, which so far the weather does not support, but good stuff like that. So we hope you'll come join us. Thank you.
Susan.
Hi, my name is Susan Powger, and I had something all planned to say, but I wanted to just take a few minutes to talk about parental rights. We all have parental rights. It's our right to decide how our children get educated. It's also our right to decide what we let our children read. Part of parental rights is also parental responsibility. It is a parent's responsibility to see what their children are learning at school by talking to the teachers. It's the parent's responsibility to decide if they don't want their child going to school, to put together an education for their child and to follow that education and make sure it's appropriate. Along with rights come responsibilities. It's a parent's responsibility to know what their children are reading, to decide what their children are reading, and to follow up on that. It is not the government's responsibility to do that. It is not the government's responsibility to decide what children are learning. It is the parent's responsibility, and if they take that responsibility, things turn out how they want. If they don't take that responsibility, it's not the government's job to step in and do that. Okay, sorry, I'm off my soapbox. What I planned to tell you today was what happened at the train depot with the library. Today we had 10 babies and parents at Baby Lapsit. Baby Lapsit is not anything nefarious. It is babies sitting in their parents' laps, listening to stories. We had 32 toddlers and parents. We also had 17 kids and 20 adults to the pollinators and bees presentation this afternoon. Also, if I have a few minutes, I wanted to talk about nonprofits. IRS calls nonprofits a selection, a group of organizations Many nonprofits are service organizations where community volunteers who see a need gather together to fill those needs. I've noticed many service organizations are getting smaller and have fewer volunteers. There could be a number of reasons for this. I believe one reason is people from outside the service organization falsely assigning political agendas and villainizing volunteer members' motives. Very few people continue to volunteer and give time when their altruistically given time and money are vilified. I have another chance. Thank you.
Thank you. Mike, you've been waiting.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, members of the council. My name is Mike Milewski. I live downtown Palmer, and I have been a patron of Palmer's Library for approximately 44 years. So I've seen changes, and I've seen many books. And for kids that grew up in the town, used the library. And I have grandkids who have also grown up and used the library. Because of what we do as a radio station, I've had the opportunity to witness the school district's library committee in action, Citizens Library Committee. I was very much impressed when it was put together. It took a bit to organize it. I've been impressed with the discussion that goes on. And by the way, I can tell you that we have up on our website videos of those meetings. Last one's coming up. And if you reflect upon the year, as the members of that committee do, and members of the school board, they learned a lot. They learned one important first step is that in order to do this properly, you have to read all the books. And you have to have that discussion in a forum where you can have a discussion. And that's what's happened. As a result, if you look at the website or if you have any kids in any of the schools that are represented and changes in their libraries, you'll see that the changes have happened. But they looked at an original set of 50 books. And my sense about it, looking at the library's collections, whichever library you wish to, much larger than 50 books. And there are accessions to that library on an ongoing basis. So it would seem reasonable to spend some time and review the process where you add books and how that happens. That's probably a good thing. However, I find it less than useful to have people who are apparently mature seek out materials that are of the nature that were presented today and repeatedly say, these are there, without taking the next step that happened at the school district and other places to say, okay, how can we make this happen? I'd also submit that it takes a bit to go, you have to go find the books, find the section, and read it. I'm not sure whether that's an obsession that borders on something that is perhaps worthy of looking at from a psychological perspective. But I do know that I do not see in the libraries students of the age that are purported to be going to be affected seeking out and reading those books. One of the features that the Citizens Library Committee worked at was to say, how many times have these books that are under consideration actually been checked out? Where are they? Who's read them, etc. That is a missing piece of information that validates whether this is as significant a problem as is being purported. Is it an issue? Does it fit with an issue that maybe is much bigger than what we're talking about here when we talk about the library and a book in the library. When we're talking about, we've mentioned it before, internet access to materials that don't require a librarian to decide whether it's going to be available or not. All it requires is a young student to have access to the internet. So I think it's time to move on and, yes, do something that makes a difference. Thank you.
Thanks. Is there anyone else for audience participation?
Hello, Mr. Mayor, City Council. My name is Eric Anderson from Palmer. A couple things. I got sidetracked here after we started from my original agenda, but first to the gentleman who accepted the proclamation for Juneteenth. I just want to tell him and everybody else publicly that our community has grown to the point where unity and community is really important. And no matter what skin color we carry or what religious background we come from, we're all given the same timer at birth, only our timers have different amounts of sand in them, and we're all created equally by the same creator. So I'll carry that with me forever, and I'll honor this person on Juneteenth, as well as all the other people that have been affected. But I just want to make it a point that our city acknowledges Juneteenth on a private citizen level. Also, the library stuff, that's got me a little bit sidetracked, and it was brought up a couple times today. Books are very important to children, especially picture books. But at the same time, when we're talking a public library, we're talking about adults too. And I'm not trying to say Jackie's wrong. I love Jackie and I love her mission. The point is once you reach a certain stage, 18, you become an adult and you have access to things that most kids don't necessarily are given legal access to. I'm not saying the library should carry this garbage, and actually I would promote that they don't. However, legally, I don't think you have a position to stand on when it comes to a public library. School libraries, that's a different thing. You can go to the school board, you get 100 angry parents up there, and you probably make a difference. But come to city council meeting after city council meeting after city council meeting and saying the same things about the same books, who's kidding who? You might get 50 kids in a library in a month that are, one of them might be going for looking at those crazy books. The more important thing is the internet. Open internet connections. That is what is ruining our children today to no extreme. The online pornography, child trafficking, kids are running away, going and kidding with people that they shouldn't, the texting. And if you have open internet lines at the library, you're giving these kids a free pass that maybe they don't have at home. Maybe the internet's a more open network that's not being monitored by their parents. To me, that is just as important, if not more important, than the books that are on the shelves. Because every kid these days has access to the internet some way. iPad, iPhone, smartphone, tablets, computers. And there's people that used to park in the parking lot out here because I'd drive through dropping off books and I'd see them. They're sitting there surfing the internet. That gives them the green light to do whatever they want on your guys' internet service. So cautiously be aware that it's not just books, it's internet and it's the things that we provide the public. And so when I was a kid, the nudie books were always on the top shelf in the back of the gas station, and you got carded to check one out. And so I'll never forget that.
That's your time. Thank you. All right, we will close audience participation. There's no public hearings. Action memorandum, number 24-027, authorizing the city manager to extend the professional services contract with Alaska Communications for one additional year, term ending June 30th, 2025. What's the wishes of the council?
Move to approve.
Second.
Moved and seconded. Do we want our manager to give us a brief summary? Sure. Mr. Manager.
Yes, this is with ACS. They have done a fine job for us. We have somebody who is here 40 hours a week. Before we had this contract with the previous company, I had nobody who was happy now I never get a complaint. It works. It's more expensive. There's going to be more expenses that come in the future outside this contract, especially for the security area. But they've done a good job in the first part of this contract to really establish what equipment needs to replace, and we've been removing that throughout. So I would recommend this extension. However, I believe this is the last extension, so 6 months from now, the new person sitting in this hot seat should be putting out an RFP for continued IT services.
Any questions of the manager?
Thank you,
Councilman Tudor.
Sorry, my mic's not working quite right. Thank you. So I remember when this came up, a couple of years ago, there was the question of moving, like getting, downsizing some of the servers, moving stuff to the cloud. Have they attempted to do that to see what the performance is?
They have done that in small increments.
Okay.
At this point in time. Security, as you know, the data is always going to be an issue. As you know, being the person, I should be asking you these questions, suppose you asking me. But, Alaska is a little wonky. We're kind of hanging out there with redundancy, that sort of thing. So I'm comfortable with where we are. I still think we need to move forward more with that. But a lot of it is we've had old equipment, outdated equipment. And a challenge that we have is, for instance, my desktop computer expired the week I got here. And we've just been kind of continuing on, with that. But our servers have been upgraded, that sort of thing. And that's where our focus has been.
Yeah.
I think these are good questions to really kind of push how can we get that out there for redundancy, but also too for cost savings, because as you know, it's expensive.
Yeah, because if memory serves on the RFP that we put out, it requires 24/7 support. I could be mistaken on that, but I'm pretty sure I remember seeing that, and that's going to dramatically increase the cost of these services. And if we can remove that requirement by moving more stuff to the cloud, that could reduce this cost significantly.
It could, but please remember we have fire and police that need 24/7.
Yeah, I understand, but I mean, if those services are more cloud-based, then it takes that pressure off the local IT provider, so you wouldn't have to have the requirement for that particular RFP. Thank you.
Okay. Councilman Moline.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Through the mayor to Mr. Moosey, what was the significant price difference between the previous supplier than this, or previous vendor than this one? I couldn't remember.
I'm going to swag this as a 35% increase. Is that fair? Yeah, 35% increase. And as I mentioned before, about 100% decrease in complaints.
Councilman Best.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I apologize if I kind of got a little lost in the conversation with the council member down at the end about the RFP. Were we talking about this RFP, about it in November that you were discussing about, or just an aspect of the RFP?
It was an aspect of the original RFP a couple of years ago when they signed on with ACS.
So thank you for that clarification. Back to the RFP that is going to be coming up in maybe November. I don't want to start the clock once we get our new manager. I would like to go ahead and start the clock now and have that direction from council to say in November, let's look at putting this out to RFP. Whatever manager is there will already have that on the table. It'll already be a request for that to happen, so that maybe in end of August, they're going to start putting together our RFP, so that we're not sitting there come November saying, oh, wait a minute, we forgot to ask, and then we start the clock then. So I'd like to take a little forward action and get council support to go forward with an RFP in November. And then that's just on the to-do list for whomever we hire.
I'd support that.
So you're wanting, in November, what is it you're wanting to happen in November? That it goes out
This
to bid?
contract that we're right now approving expires, and so it'll need to go out for RFP. So that will be the RFP that we'll be requesting is for these services. But the next portion of this contract, because this one now will end.
Okay, I'm just trying to follow. Is November when it goes to hit the streets or when we're working on it?
That would be the 6-month time frame that you.
Okay. All right, and I think that would really be something we would be directing the new manager to do.
That would be helpful for me, yes.
I mean, he can take notes, but Councilman Alcantara?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. So if we approve this action memorandum tonight, we're extending it out through June 30th of next year, 2025. And then, as I understand it, some of our other friends that are here locally in Palmer and others will have a chance to qualify and apply for that, whether it's in November, December, January. I'm not sure I'm not sure if we want to start telling our city manager when to put RFPs on the street, unless I'm missing something on something in here that says it has to be out by November, which would be effectively 7 to 8 months before it expires.
Right. And I think this is one of the things it's basically the manager and an administrative task of the manager. But I think the council's probably unified in saying, we need to do this early. It should be hitting the streets before 6 months so that we can get through the whole process.
Mr. Mayor?
Yes,
If I
Councilwoman Moline.
could, thank you. If I could just clarify, on behalf of Mr. Best, I think what the point is that generally we have a lot of things that come before us in the agenda that we're caught kind of a little unaware and unprepared for because they just happen to show up in the agenda. And more times than not, we're behind the 8 ball on it. And so I think that what he's saying is let's do our due diligence and be prudent about it and put it forward ahead of time so that there's enough runway in order to make a conscious, and so that we're also advocating for competitive bids on the service. So I support that.
Councilman Best.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. And I apologize if I wasn't clear on that. That's with what Councilwoman Moline just stated there. That was my intent, is that we have, for the last several years, been caught flat-footed on many things that, oh, well, somebody didn't happen to notice it. And my point is that this governing body, when we speak to a manager, it's not a private conversation. This isn't about a conversation that we're having with the current city manager. It is with the administration of whomever is sitting in that seat. So 2 months from now, the direction that this body has given to a manager still carries until it is then discussed here again. And so again, this is where my frustration level over the last several years, where we've continually gone down these paths and not had proactive planning on how we get out of something, or something that we see coming down the tracks for a while, that we're not taking the action that we should be. So this is, again, the conversation that I'd like to have, is that we're asking the manager, whatever the manager is, in November to go after the RFP. Thank you.
Councilman Alcantara.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'm perfectly fine with all that. My point is November's 8 months before the expiration of the contract, and you're maybe hand-holding the next city manager. If there's something in code that says we go 8 months before a contract expires, I'm cool with that. I'm cool with saying on record, let's let the next person, whoever he or she may be, start working on this in November. But I don't like to get into micromanaging of telling city managers when they can go out for RFP, unless that's something that I've missed in code. So thank you.
Well, I'll just remind people, our form of government is called a council manager form of government. And so the council gives direction to the manager, although this one's not going to care in another week. So, but, all right. Are we ready to vote on this AM? Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll, please.
Mayor Carrington.
Yes.
Councilmember Moline.
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Anzalotti.
Yes.
Councilmember Best.
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper,
Yes.
Councilmember Alcantara,
Yes.
Councilmember Tudor,
Yes.
unanimous.
All right, next is action memorandum number 24-028, directing the city manager to notify the state of Alaska of the city council's statement of non-objection of the package store license number 4366 for Fred Meyer's number 649. What's the wishes of the council?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Is there any comments or questions from council on this? None? Okay. Oh, Councilman Tudor?
So I was waiting, we had any complaints about this license.
We've had not had any comments,
Any
complaints,
comments,
or comments? Okay.
Stealing his thunder.
Yeah, tradition. Yeah. All right. Is there any other comments or questions from the council? All right, Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll, please.
Councilmember Tudor,
Yes.
Councilmember Alcantara,
Yes.
Councilmember Best,
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Anzalati,
Yes.
Mayor Carrington,
Yes.
Councilmember Moline,
Yes.
unanimous.
All right, next is action memorandum number 24-030, authorizing utility water connection for 2820 South Margaret Drive, Palmer, Alaska. What's the wishes of the council?
Move to approve.
All right, is there any questions, or we want a short staff report from the manager? Or we're seeing, oh, Councilman Tudor.
Are there any concerns with any contaminants going into the water supply from this, since it is a greenhouse? I'm assuming there's not much, I was just wasn't sure about fertilizer.
Mr. Manager?
Sorry. I wasn't sure if there's any concerns about, I mean, it's a greenhouse, I'm sure it's okay, but I just want to double check. Is there any concerns about any kind of chemicals being used going into the water supply from a greenhouse? I wasn't sure if there's any kind of fertilizer type, just making sure there's nothing that would be surprising to public works.
It'll be a safe operation. We protect our water distribution.
Okay, perfect, thank you.
Okay. Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll, please.
Councilmember Best,
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper,
Yes.
Member Alcantara,
Yes.
Councilmember Tudor,
Yes.
Councilmember Moline,
Yes.
Mayor Carrington,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Anzalati,
Yes.
unanimous.
All right, next is action memorandum number 24-031, authorizing utility water and sewer connection for Breezy Meadows multifamily development located at 12697 East Scott Road, Palmer, Alaska. What's the wishes of the council?
Second.
Moved and seconded. Do we wish to have a brief report from the manager? We have questions from the manager. We have comments from the council. Seeing none, Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll, please.
Deputy Mayor Anzalati,
Yes.
Councilmember Moline,
Yes.
Mayor Carrington,
Yes.
Councilmember Tudor,
Yes.
Councilmember Alcantara,
Yes.
Councilmember Best,
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper,
Yes.
unanimous.
All right. Next is action memorandum number 24-033, appointing current City of Palmer Finance Director Gina Davis as interim city manager and authorizing compensation. What's the wishes of the council?
Move to approve.
Second.
Okay, moved and seconded. Is there any questions or comments from council? No? Okay. Madam Clerk, if you could call the roll, please.
Councilmember Moline,
Yes.
Mayor Carrington,
Yes.
Councilmember Tudor,
Yes.
Councilmember Alcantara,
Yes.
Councilmember Cooper,
Yes.
Councilmember Best,
Yes.
Deputy Mayor Anzalati,
Yes.
unanimous.
All right. There's no unfinished business, there's no new business. Record of items placed on the table. Madam Clerk,
Documents from Jackie Goforth.
okay. Audience participation. We are opening up audience participation. Those wishing to come forward, please start with stating your name, and you have 3 minutes per person.
Hello again, name is Andre Jackson. If you look at the agenda, I see that the city of Palmer is connecting to several new subdivisions, and I don't know how many residents that's gonna serve, but it seems to me that as we add more water users of utility, water, and sewer, you would think that my utilities would go down, but they have a tendency to continue to go up. You know, my biggest complaint is that the wife and I, we maybe use 2,500 gallons, maybe at the most. So then you got the other 250, 275, 3,000 more gallons just sitting there that I can't use. However, if I go over 5,000 gallons, then the city of Palmer will prorate it, that extra gallons over 5,000. Now, I kind of find it kind of unfair that the homeowners are the ones that are always attacked, and we seem to be getting increases year after year. I get a letter every year, it seems like. Maybe I may be just exaggerating, but it seems like every year that the water goes up 2 to 5%. And I think if we're going to continue annexing and connecting other water sources to other communities, then we need to kind of spread that cost to them as well and bring mines down. You know, I am a senior citizen, and I'm proud of that. And it's not that I have a fixed income, but I just think that I'm being overcharged. When I pay for gas, I get a certain rate for the usage. If I pay for electricity, I get a certain rate for usage. And it'd be nice if they gave me a blank, say, for this amount of electricity, this is how much you pay. Well, my lights would be on all night and all day. Now, if I did that with the water and just let the water on to get up to 5,000 gallons and you see water running in the street, I guarantee you somebody's going to call and say, this guy is wasting water. No, he's not wasting water. He's just burning what he's already paid for. Secondly, unfortunately, I won't be at the Juneteenth celebration because I have a chance as a delegate, Alaska delegate, to go with National Juneteenth. So I'll be in Washington, D.C. for 3 days to celebrate there and hopefully to bring back some other events and other things that may be important for the celebration for community-wise. So I'm really thankful that I had that opportunity. And lastly, to the city manager, I'm going to give you a warning. And when you retire, I retired last year, and every time I see the mayor, he's always asking, how is retirement? How is retirement? So be prepared that he's going to harass you about how is your retirement.
So warning, stay away from the mayor.
No, I didn't say stay away from him, but just be prepared to hear it. Thank you, sir.
Thanks. Is there anyone else for audience participation?
Good evening again. I'm Jackie Goforth. You know, I speak a lot about these books, and I get a lot of people who give me opinions of me. And they do it in person. The ones that are in person is I got called immature. I get called uninformed. Last night I got told that I have mind issues and I need to work on it. Okay. I want you to know that that doesn't bother me. I already know what happens when you speak about these books and when you speak up to people. The shaming and shunning in person is interesting, online is horrific. And that is why my 2 compatriots left. It's very brave to speak out about this book when you realize that you don't like it. It is disgusting. And the people listening to you are very upset at you for reading it. It's very, very brave for them to do that. I want you to know that. Now, please listen to the Supreme Court decision from 2003, United States versus American Library Association. They're to fulfill their traditional missions. Public libraries must have broad discretion to decide what material to provide to their patrons. Although they seek to provide a wide array of information, their goal has never been to provide universal coverage. Instead, public libraries seek to provide materials that would be of the greatest direct benefit or interest to the community. Contrary to any opinion, I have followed the policy and procedure to remove these books. It is very difficult to find, and it's not remotely transparent. And I have been stymied because these books are going to stay, because the people I speak to are American Library Associated adherents who will not remove them. But the request is not to take them out of the library, not for identical. The request was to move it to adult section. There's a law in this state. It's Alaska Statute 11.61.128. It is a Class C felony to distribute obscene material to anyone under 16. And obscene material is defined in the 1973 Supreme Court decision, Miller versus California. And we are allowed to speak in front of the council if we need to, and it might be vitriolic and it might be language you don't want to hear, and that is Sullivan versus New York Times, 1964 United States Supreme Court. I'm sorry, I have a photographic memory. I'm telling you. And transgender, it just came out 2 days ago that people who have bottom surgery are 12 times more likely to commit suicide. And when I told that lady that yesterday, I was told that I needed to have my mind looked at. It came out. It's the Washington Examiner and the NIH. All you have to do is look it up. These books that are being sponsored by the NGOs, that brings me to the NGOs, by the way. The borough resolution that came out last week about the Mat-Su Health Foundation, I was at the Health Foundation last night, and I heard from the CEO say that there's no agenda there. Yes, there is. I have picture proof, and I'm going to provide it to the borough next week.
That's your
Thank
time.
you.
Is there anyone else for audience participation?
You knew I had to come back up. I agree with Mr. Moosey. Palmer is a special place, a community that I love. The organization that would later become Friends of the Palmer Public Library, what a title, was started in 1948. I'm pretty sure the great ladies who started that organization were not Marxists any more than the members of the members of the Friends of the Palmer Public Library are today. Think critically for a few minutes. You must personally know some Friends members. What do you know about the Friends activities? Think about that for a minute. Not what you've been told happens, not what you've been told, what you know. Please take what actions you can to keep Palmer a special place where people don't vilify others, and members of public feel free to and comfortable to volunteer their time without repercussions. Remember, just because it was said here in a meeting doesn't mean it's true.
Anyone else for audience participation?
Mike Malowski, once again. I'm still living, last I checked, and hopefully when I go home, I will still be living there at 325 East Farweed Avenue. I wanted to do three different things. First of all, I had the great pleasure this morning of interviewing Maya DeSalvo. It's possible that Mr. Moosey knows who she is. She is part of the planning department at the borough. I know the planning people have come here and made a presentation. Just recently did another presentation over the Wasilla City Council. I'm going to encourage you to invite her to come here again, okay? In part because it took me a while. It took the full interview before I was finally able to get my mind around the planning monies that are happening. And they come, I think the mayor may be quite aware of this, they come in really two parts. There are continuation grants, and there's going to be an RFP that's hit the street from the borough about monies to essentially maintain what we have been doing. And then we have the MPO and another pile of money for looking forward after that. But if you know the general outlines of that, the detail gets to be interesting. It works, and I understand it now much better, but I think you'd find it helpful because the city of Palmer is involved in that whole process. Secondly, Mr. Best, a while ago, commented about RFPs, and I thank him for that. I may have missed it, but is there an RFP on the street for the Palmer Museum of History and Art? If there is not, I think I remember that present contract ends at the end of this year. If that is so, and I'm looking at the calendar and it's June, I'm going to encourage you, again, secondly, to get an RFP out to deal with that, and Mr. Best won't have to go back and say, here we go again. He did a good job. So I just bring that up. Thirdly, as I was leaving my house today, I found not one, not two, but 3 police cruisers gathered around the intersection just outside my home, and there were a couple of vehicles. One vehicle in the middle that had wheels pointed in various directions, obviously had been struck. The police were checking a driver for his condition and the rest of it. And it brought to mind a situation that I continue to see, and I'm not here even knowing how to deal with it necessarily, but as I walked further on to come over to the meeting, sure enough, going down Colony Way was someone who blew through the intersection there at the red light going straight. It didn't stop at that stop sign. It's a continuing problem. Thank you.
Thank you. Is there anyone else for audience participation?
Hello, Eric Anderson from Palmer. The reason I came here tonight was to inform the city council of an issue that happened in Cedar Park this past Saturday, the new subdivision next to Cedar Hills. It's the 4th house that is being built up there now. The first 3, well, the first one is occupied by a builder. The second one is occupied by a developer, design company. The third one is not occupied or finished yet. The 4th one is adjacent to me. I'm sitting on my back deck and I hear air brakes, and I look out and there's a fire truck. And so I obviously go, hey, what's going on? You know, looking around, and the guy building next to me had started a fire. He was all by himself Saturday, started a fire, threw all the building materials off to the side of the house, and then he went back inside to start working, and somebody had walking their dogs, because it's one of the nicest bike trails in Palmer now, right now. They were walking their dog down the street. They seen the fire, called it in, and the fire department was right there to put it out. My point being was this, is the city council through these variances created that, and my house is adjacent to this. If the contractor is not licensed in the city or isn't licensed or doesn't have insurance and it causes a fire, who's liable? It's a private HOA now, so the from my driveway on is private HOA, and we're gonna pick up the bill for them to plow their snow. We're gonna go put out fires for open burning with no permits, and we have no way to collect any kind of revenue from them other than property taxes. And so here's my point is, when the public comes out and says, hey, we think you should put fire extinguisher or fire hydrants up here, it's a reasonable cause to say, hey, maybe we should. Maybe we shouldn't give these people the free pass, because I'll tell you what, if that person hadn't walked by and the wind was blowing, it picked up while I was standing on my deck watching 8-foot flames. Finally, the fire truck showed up with the water and was able to douse it. But if those guys hadn't shown up over 5 minutes later, potentially probably would have burned the neighborhood again. And that's how fast that wind blows up there. It doesn't take much to spread that fire. And so in a new subdivision like that, somebody in this city needs to tell the developer, your builders need to have fire extinguishers on site. There's no open burning unless you have a permit. And also, if you are going to burn, have some water available. There's no well there. They don't have a well hooked up yet. There's no fire hydrants. And so fortunately, the fire truck had some gallons on board, and they doused it. But that's not your guys' responsibility to do that during construction. I mean, I'm a contractor. Number one thing we do before we go in a job is put up our safety stuff. Fall protection, PPE, and fire extinguishers on every floor, and depending on the size of the floor, multiple. We never open burn garbage. You know, OSB's got a lot of glue in it. That stuff's worse than gas. And then when it gets up in the wind and the wind flutters it around, the whole point is we need to try to minimize risk to the neighborhood, and we can do a lot better. Thanks.
Anyone else for audience participation? Okay, well, close audience participation. Next is council comments. And just a reminder, the views and opinions expressed during council comments are those of the individual speakers and do not reflect the opinion of the city or its officials or of the entire council even. Councilman Tudor.
So yeah, this last weekend was Colony Days. It was an amazing event. I couldn't believe how well it went. There were so many volunteers that helped out with that, and of course the Chamber of Commerce did an excellent job. To me, this really shows how important it is for the city to work well with vendors and with the Chamber of Commerce to make sure that relationship stays really functional, so that way the whole community can get a benefit from it, because it's so important for those events to go well. And it was just amazing. I remember seeing the bike police going by. They're always fun to see, and they just such a great job. And the explorers were out there helping with crowd control during the parade to make sure people weren't going into the parade. And it's just a terrific event. And also just wanted to say, this kind of something I think the council should think about. During the car show I think that was on Sunday, they closed down South Colony Way in front of those stores. And the feedback I heard from one of the business owners in particular was it really increased our foot traffic, which is a complaint I think we've had with some of the events, is that it does tend to minimize the amount of people that go into the brick and mortar stores there down Main Street. And closing down that street for the car show seemed to open it up, because obviously there's an issue where people walk across that busy street to go from, let's say, Friday Fling or Colony Days over to their stores. So might be good to play around with closing it off temporarily, see if there's an impact on those businesses to give them a benefit. So I think that could be a good thing for us to do. Mr. Jackson, thank you so much for your hard work, and what an honor. That's amazing. You're going to be able to go down to the national conference for that. You've done such a good work here, and the things you are doing for the community by promoting Juneteenth strengthens our community and makes it a better place. Thank you so much.
Councilwoman Maleen, you want to be next?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Again, thank you for everyone for coming out. You're exercising your free speech, regardless of how hard it is to sometimes sit and listen, or to say the statements that you so passionately hold dear. We appreciate everybody's feedback and their opportunity to have an impact on the city. Really, this is your city. So I really appreciate every time everybody comes out and has something to say. Mr. Musi, I want to say congratulations on retirement. What an accomplishment. I'm super excited for you. I can't wait for that to happen to me, even though it seems like it's forever that's going to be down the road. But what an excitement that you have to look forward to. So congratulations. And I can't think of a better person to act as interim than Gina. So Gina, I think we're going to be in really good hands. So thank you for stepping up and being in consideration for that position. I too heard wonderful things about Colony Days. It just so happens that every year that is right during the pack of birthdays. Most of you know I have a very big family, and everybody's birthday is in June, including mine. So we take time to come together and celebrate, and it's always, unfortunately, during Colony Days. But I was watching online, and it looked like you had not only incredible weather, but you also had an incredible turnout. So that is really exciting. I agree with Mr. Tudor, or Councilman Tudor, that I would like to see more across the aisle with our Chamber of Commerce. I think we've asked for that many times, to have an opportunity to have you come in and actually work with you to see what kind of barriers or what kind of roadblocks that we have, that we can be impactful in removing, to offer great events and to see where we can, obviously create, opportunities for our businesses. So I think it's great, and I would really highly encourage that and support that effort. I I could say many things tonight about some of the comments about the library and the books and the nonprofits and all of that. But I think that, I think that people in Palmer are smarter than that. I think they are well aware of what goes on with these nonprofits, and not all of them are bad. I'm the first to admit that. Not all of them are bad. Some of them have got great missions. They're mission driven, and they've got great objectives, and they do contribute to our society as a whole. But there are some, obviously, that I have great distress over and concerns over. So, but Palmer is smarter than that. The people in the valley are smarter than that. They know, they've been educated, and there's not much more that I can say about that. And I think pretty much that's it. I'm looking forward to interviewing on our next round of city manager position for the city manager. And yeah.
Okay. Councilman Alcantara.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. First off, I'll echo the comments of my council member to my right here, from Mr. Jackson. That's fantastic honor, and I'm glad you're getting to go to DC and be part of that celebration. I'm glad to know that Juneteenth is finally getting recognized. It's an important date in history that it is. So thank you for your efforts, not only here but nationally. It's great. Mr. Musi, thanks so much for your 4 years here, your 9 years at the borough, and just I will definitely miss your guidance and your great work that you've done here. I agree with fellow council member that Gina Davis will be a great fill-in until we decide who we're going to hire and what we're going to do. So congratulations, Gina. I know it's a little kind of a 180 in personality types, but I know Gina definitely does things the right way. Back to Mr. Jackson for a second. Maybe one of the things we can look at is a 3,000 gallon starting point for water and sewer, because I know I've never come close to using less than 5,000, but I know there are people that do. I do want to say that Colony Days was fantastic. They're representing Job Corps just for 2 days, because church duties keep me really, really busy on Sundays. So luckily for me, I had to take down our tent at about 7:15 on Saturday night, because I heard by about 8:15 Saturday night it was 44-mile-an-hour gusts. So I'm glad I got out of there while the getting was good. So that's a good thing. I missed the last council meeting. Our son Nealon, I was able to visit him in North Carolina and Chesapeake and Portsmouth, Virginia, and now he's in Bahrain for the next 9 months. So that was definitely a Memorial Day weekend that I will treasure, and hope I'll see him back here in our country here in about 9 months. So last thing for Colony Days, I want to applaud the efforts of Councilmember Tudor and his son for all the cleanup work that they did and all the extra duty that they did to kind of make sure Colony Days was as successful as it was. So with that, the last thing is everybody who participates in this, and not so sensitive that I worry about any kind of language that is spoken. So when you come here and you get your 1 or 2 3-minute chances for audience participation, know that we are paying attention, and it is absolutely your right to come and express your feelings in the way that you see fit. And I applaud everybody who does so. Thank you very much.
Deputy Mayor Anzalotti.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Congratulations, Mr. Musi, on your retirement. I'll have to stop by the roast tomorrow and check that out. And I unfortunately was working on Saturday, so I didn't get to see the parade. But Colony Days was spectacular as always. Lots more vendors than I see usually, or maybe I just haven't been around it in a bit. And then thank you, Mr. Jackson, for coming and drawing attention to such a meaningful date, and I hope that you're able to gain a lot from going to DC. And that's all I have.
Councilman Cooper.
Thank you. Just to, reiterate all the great things that all the other council members have said. John, your roasting, it will be at the ball game when we end up doing some cooking, so that might be physical, and in your retirement, we know how that works, and that's right, yeah. And we know where you live, so, and Gina, thanks oh so much for, stepping up and, and taking the reins, so John, again, thanks for your 40 years of public service. Appreciate it.
Councilman Best.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I don't think anybody else in this room other than two of us know about this, but the very first person that I met in this community was Mr. Andre Jackson. When we came out to take a look at a house in Brittany Estates, there was a neighbor out there mowing his lawn, and I just pulled up and just started a conversation with him. Because the developer that I was buying the house from was also the builder of his house. And that's how our history started in 1999, back a ways. So, I don't know. There's just something about Palmer where you find your way to good people, whether you like it or not, and whether it's something you're looking forward to, or it just happens. It's the way that our community is. It's just John, when we first met, they were just rolling through, actually checking another house in that same neighborhood too, and just kind of the conversations just start from there, and you just that's how it is. It's you just introduce yourself and you start being with each other. But I just want to say it's been a long time, sir, and you have been the same person that you have been from day one, and I appreciate you and congratulate you on your efforts going down to DC. What an honor. Colony Days, got to participate in a little bit of the Colony Day stuff, participated in one of the little cornhole tournaments that they had over there at the museum, and I will tell you, watch out for those 7 and 8 year olds. They are just nailing it, and so yeah, didn't even make it out of the first round again. Construction debris. I know my belief is within inside city limits, you're not allowed to burn construction debris, but that's actually something that I think that the borough should take on, as in any construction, that there is no open burning of construction debris. I even see there's, I want to say, a liquor store on your way out towards Wasilla that you can see a burn cage that they have, and they openly burn their garbage. And I have a problem with businesses burning, regardless of their control mechanism for the flames and whatnot. But I think that's a discussion that the borough needs to have as we continue to grow, and it's just unsightly as well. I appreciate the comment about the RFP for the museum contract, because that is something that we have talked about. So I want to make sure, and maybe at the next meeting we get a report on when it might be let. What is the administration's view on how it will proceed? And I want to make sure that that is handed off to our temporary manager and or upcoming new manager as well. But appreciate everybody.
All right. Well, thanks everyone for being here. We're adjourned. 7:34.